and welcome back to Baking with Mrs. Myles. I hope everyone is staying home and staying safe and continuing to wash your hands. I want you all to know that everyone at Falmouth misses you very, very much, and we can't wait to get back to school to see you. For today, we're going to be making a much requested recipe, my cinnamon buns. Now, this is the first time I've ever given out this recipe, so I hope you guys really enjoy making it. For the dough part of this recipe, you're going to need milk. Today I'm using almond milk to make them dairy-free. You're going to need sugar. You're going to need butter. I'm using the vegan butter. You're going to need 2 eggs. You're going to need some yeast and some salt. And you're also going to need some flour. So today for this video, we're going to be using the bread machine. You can make these in the mixer, you can make them in the bread machine, you can mix them up by hand. I find the bread machine easiest for this one. I know not everyone has one, so if you're going to be using the mixer, just head back to my pretzel video and it'll show you how to mix up the dough with the mixer. Perfect! So the first thing we need to do is add the wet ingredients. So first, it's 1 cup of milk. And the next ingredient is 1/2 cup of butter. I already have it measured out here. The next ingredient is 1/3 of a cup sugar. The next ingredient is 2 eggs. Now I'm going to put them into here first and then plop them in. So that's 1, 2, and we'll throw that right into there. So now we'll start adding the dry ingredients. We're going to add the flour next. So we need 4 cups of flour. So I have a big 45-pound bag of flour over here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the next 2 ingredients are the yeast and the salt. So for today I'm using bread machine yeast, and we need 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. So like I mentioned in the last video, you put the yeast on one side and the salt on the other. So we have 1, 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, and then we have 2 teaspoons of salt. 1, 2. And the first part of this recipe is that easy. So if you're using the bread machine, all you need to do is shut the cover and put it on your dough setting. And then you let the bread mixer do it for you. So that was going to take about 1.5 hours. If you're mixing it with the mixer, just mix it up for about the 10-minute mark and then put it in a greased bowl and let it rise for about 45 minutes to 1 hour or until it's doubled in size. So I'll see you guys when this is done. Hi everyone and welcome back. Our cinnamon bun dough is all ready to be rolled out. So the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure you have a nice clean spot to roll out your dough, and you have a pan ready. So I'm going to spray my pan with a little bit of Pam. You can line it or whatever you want to do. So then we're going to grab our dough. It smells really good already. So I'm gonna knead it a tiny little bit. And then what you want to do is you want to roll this out into a rectangle. So the size really depends on you, how big you want your cinnamon buns, how thick you want the dough. Let's see how far this goes. So we're going to take the rolling pin. You can hear the dough squeaking, which means it's a really good dough. Let's make this. So I like to have bigger cinnamon rolls that are a bit thicker. At school, I roll this out really thin so I can get as many as I can. I usually end up doing 2 batches because I have 2 bread machines at school. So we want something as close to a rectangle as possible. So that looks really good. So for this part, you're going to need some butter. I'm using vegan butter. You're going to need some white sugar. You're going to need some brown sugar. You're going to need some cinnamon. And you're going to need a little bit of nutmeg. That's my secret ingredient. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take some butter and cover the surface. Now there's a couple different ways to do it. You can melt your butter and brush it on. You can spoon it on. I just like taking this butter with the back of a spoon and just putting it all over. And again, this is personal preference how you want to do this. I just find this easier because this butter spreads really, really nicely and it's not as messy as melting it. There, nice and covered. So after you have that on, I put the white sugar on next. Now, a lot of people use one kind of sugar or the other. I like to use both because it gives it that nice flavor. So there really is no measurements for this. I do whatever looks right. So we're going to just cover the surface. Now remember, we are putting 2 different kinds of sugar on, so you don't want too much of each one. So I would say if you're looking for a measurement, I used about 1/4 cup there. Perfect. So the next thing you want to do is use the brown sugar. Now I use a bit more brown sugar because I like the flavor of it better. So I have 1/3 of a cup here. And I find this easier to spread with my hands because it gets a little clumpy. So we're going to cover the whole surface. And these are cinnamon buns. They're not supposed to be good for you, so use as much as you like. So that was 1/3, so we're going to get a little bit more. And we're going to make sure it's all over. I'm going to add a little bit more, I think. So in the end here, I ended up using about 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Again, if you want it a little less sweet, you can use less. It's all personal preference. So I pat it down. And then you're going to want to add your cinnamon. So again, I don't measure this. I just take it and I sprinkle so everywhere has some. If you're looking for a measurement here, I would say approximately a couple tablespoons. There, that looks good to me. And then our last ingredient, the secret ingredient, nutmeg. So we don't use very much of this, just a little bit. So we're going to take a pinch and we're just going to sprinkle it all over. because we just want a little bit. So I'm going to take a second pinch and just make sure, because you just want a little bit of that flavor. So what you want to do now is you want to start rolling. So we're going to take the long side that's away from you and we're going to start rolling it towards you. So just take your dough up a little bit and we're going to start making a big snake with it. So this may take a little practice. If you don't get it the first time, it's okay. I've been doing this a long time. So we just keep rolling. And you want to squish it a little bit with your hands together to make sure it sticks. So let's just roll it up like that. Right up to the end. Now, give it a good squeeze here to make sure it all sticks together. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut them into rolls. Now, like I said earlier, I like mine a bit thicker. So I'm going to cut mine 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Again, you can do whatever size you want. So I'm going to do this. This knife is not very good for this. So we're going to go. And how many you're going to get really depends on the size that you make them. All right, now that we have that done, we're going to take them and put them in the pan. So I'm going to take these 2 ones on the end because they're a little funny looking. So I'm actually going to set those down upside down just so they bake a lot easier. So we're going to put them like that. Some will come apart, that's okay. Just squeeze them together. And it's okay if they touch. They will rise and bake together. I need to make room for one more. There we go. So you have some stuff left over on your counter here. We're gonna bring that all together because we don't want to waste it. So what I do is I just put it all together. I take a little bit of it and just sprinkle it on top just to give it the extra little crunch. Perfect, and that's all for this step. We're going to leave those for about ½ hour to 45 minutes for a second raise. Now just cover them with a tea towel and put them somewhere out of the way, somewhere warm. And then in the meantime, preheat your oven to 350 and I'll come back to see you in about ½ hour, 45 minutes. So these are finished raising. It's been about ½ an hour. So we're gonna throw them in the oven now. So I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. We're gonna throw them in there and we're gonna put them on for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then after that buzzer goes off, I'll come back and see you. Hey everyone, we're back. It's been about 25 minutes and the buzzer just rang. Let's check and see how they're doing. Oh, those look done to me. You're looking for the nice brown around the edges. They puffed up nicely. But if we want to check see if they're done, we're going to see if they're 190 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's pick a big spot here. Perfect. Excellent, we'll call those done. So we're going to take them over out of the oven and move them over to some cooling pads. So So what we need to do now is we need to wait a little bit longer until they cool down. Then I'll move them over to a wire rack and we'll icing them. So we'll see you in about 10 to 15 minutes. Hi everyone and welcome back. We're all ready for our last step. So as you can see, I took them off the pan and I put them on some wire racks. I just put the pan underneath them so it will catch any drippings. It just makes it easier cleanup. So what you're going to need is you're going to need some icing sugar and a little bit of water. And this is just to make the glaze. So what you need to do is take some icing sugar and put it in a bowl. I would say I have about a half a cup there. And then you take a little bit of water and you add it to it. You don't need very much. So I'm gonna add a spoonful to start and we'll start to stir. Now, as you can see, it's starting to make a nice glaze. Now, we want it a little thinner than that, so I'm gonna add another spoonful. And we're gonna stir. And we're just gonna keep adding spoonfuls of water until we get it to a consistency we want. When it comes to making glaze, less water is more. There we go. That's about where we want it. So we want it so it's thick, but pourable. So look at that. So all we need to do now is we just put it on top of the cinnamon buns. So just sprinkle it on. Now we waited till they were cool so this didn't completely melt down through them. We just sprinkle it on any way you want to. You can make designs or just lines. I'm just going back and forth here. And again, the amount that you use is personal preference. If you like more, you like more. If you don't want any, you don't have any either. And there we go. That's everything you need for my cinnamon bun recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed making it. I miss you all and we'll see you again next time.